So welcome to the day 15, if I counted well, the day 15 of the 40-day awakening intensive. I'm really happy that you're here and that you joined, and that we already started to become quiet using this music that is a bit like, let's say, widening the horizons. And so you see that when you sit still and allow something to come to you, that your mind expands naturally, and you can actually say speed it up a little bit for yourself. We come these days, we come into a new habit, and that is to opening up to say the frequency in which we receive the message, or we receive the communication. You start to say collide into the unified force field, or in the energy, if you want. And it is so great and so comforting to step into that communication. So that's why we're together. That's why we say meet, with the purpose of letting that occur, taking time to let that occur, to come into communication. And so that's, I always use a bit of the same words. It's unavoidable. It doesn't mean that that it's always the same at all. Now you can feel that in day 15 of this awakening intensive. Everything shifted again. You could feel that last night too when we met, or yesterday when we met. It's like everything is shifting again. Now today it is a different day. It's totally different energy, totally different moment, and say it doesn't have any relationship with yesterday anymore. It's gone. Yesterday is gone, and there's a song about that too. But like it is continuously over. And that is what we remember. It's like it's continuously over. What is here is all there is everything there is total presence, is communication. And yeah, you can stay there by continuously letting go and bringing yourself back to, oh yeah, wait a minute, whoosh, here I am. This is the place. No, there's no past. No, there's no future. No, there's no hurricane coming. There's no sickness coming at me. There's none of that. Like, let go of these ideas. Let go of these ideas. Suddenly, like, even though you were for a moment in the darkest clouds, you see some light shining through the clouds. And suddenly you feel like you're supported, and this is really true. It is like that. So you can even feel that you're reaching out for a hand that takes you out of the clouds into the light, and that is a real experience for you too. So that is so great in remembering that together. But like I said, we come into a new habit in which, even when you listen to music, you can already come to me. Or when we see each other, we remember each other of like, hey, wait a minute, we're not here for anything else but to remember, not that you're not allowed to say anything else. No, not at all. But the purpose of coming together is remembrance. See, and that sometimes you just need to see each other for that to happen, or think about one another, or maybe send out an app for a moment, and like, oh yeah, that was really what I needed. I just needed to see that I'm not doing this by myself, that I'm not alone in all of this. No, that there's a brotherhood, that there's a group. A group sounds a bit, no, that's not it either. It's like we do this together as one. That's more like it. So otherwise we start another religion, thinking if you behave like this and you do like that, you come to the meetings like 5 times a week, you stay for an hour, you listen to what is being said, you're going to read the articles that are being sent to you, then you're good, part of the church, and that's not what we want. So, and that's not what's going to be helpful. That in the first place, it is not what's going to be helpful. So Joel Goldsmith, for instance, he really said, we're not an organization. We're not going to organize this. So this is purely by your desire to be here. You feel the magnetic energy pulling you to this place, to this moment, and that's why you show up. So it doesn't need anything else in that sense. It doesn't need to be organized or, it is no congregation. It is not a church. No. No, this is your individual responsibility, your individual calling. You receive that calling, so you answer by connecting with others in the light, in the love in which we know each other. So that's so beautiful. And it's so subtle too. Like nobody's forcing you to be here and you're here. Nobody's forcing you to watch this and you're watching it. You know, it's like that. That's really lovely. And tomorrow is different. Yesterday was different. Who knows? It doesn't matter. So the only thing that matters is that you're here now and you're open to receive this. That's all that matters. So today, on the 15th day of the 40 days awakening intensive, I'm going to read a little bit of Joel from the Parenthesis in Eternity. I always love that book to use. It's great. So I open it somewhere and start reading it. And that is just, say, a couple of paragraphs. And it will bring us something that we need to remember right now. So in the other part of this, say, meeting is more relaxation. But also, say there was a request that I can tell my awakening story. I'm certainly willing to do that, and it won't be too long, but I will make the best of it. See, the interesting part for me of an awakening story is, of course, it is a change, like it's an immense change. It is an unbelievable change that occurs because you turn from natural man into spirit man, into spiritual man. That is the amazing change. So in the end, there is only spiritual man. And natural man is something that it's like a temporary device to come to know who you are. And so that's why the story in itself doesn't really matter when you come to the point of realizing it, of awakening. Then the story, you could care less of what the story is. The lucky thing was that it brought you to this, because it's the reality of who you are. So that is also to keep in mind. So it's not about having a great awakening story. It is not about, say, that confirms something about what you experience right now. No, it doesn't. So there's no credit you can get from it. It's like it's not telling you anything in that sense, except a storyline, how it all came about to end up in a place where it doesn't matter anymore. That's actually what I wanted to say. And so that part we will do after the, say, introductory reading from Joel, from the Parenthesis, a little part of it. And I love the chapter Alchemy, so I will bring us there. Let's do that. So in between we have some music, and not that I plan anything, but it just seems to happen that way. So I have to dive into my ebook. But it goes so quick and so easy, it's amazing. So the Master Alchemist. Well, why not start at the beginning? The Master Alchemist. Too many Occidentals believe that the mystical life is not only impractical, but largely a figment of the imagination. In this age, however, so it's on chapter 24. In this age, however, the way of mysticism is being shown to be not something mythical, mysterious or occult, but spiritual, and a far more practical way of life than any yet devised in the human realm. It changes life from the everyday humdrum human experience with its trials and its tribulations and its ups and its downs to an entirely different kind of life. One lived from within, and yet not lived by us, but rather lived through us. A life in which we pass from living by taking through and by our own effort to living by the Spirit. The Master Christ Jesus taught his followers to resist not evil, to cease from strife and all kinds, whether by the sword or the law, and to give twice as much in return if something were taken from them. Like, you can have my coat too, my cloak and my, take it all. Why not? Here, give it away. Such a teaching sounds very impractical for this day and age, but as a matter of fact, it is far more practical than living a life dependent for its security and safety upon an army, navy, and an air force. Not only would we be relieved of the staggering expense of maintaining them, but we would also be relieved of any danger from an enemy, because this way of life there are no enemies. It would be as impossible to live with this transcendental presence and have an enemy as it would be to live with it and then find oneself in danger from snakes, wild animals, starvation, or any form of physical and mental discord. This is a very difficult idea for the human mind to grasp. What the unillumined mind sees, hears, tastes, touches and smells seems so real, and the material mental universe looks so real, that nothing could consider quite as ridiculous as to stand before the highest temporal authority of the day and calmly state, "Thou could have no power at all against me, except if it were given thee from above." Or to say, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." The human mind is simply unable to understand such an attitude. But that is the human mind, the unconditioned mind, the illumined mind, the mind that comprehends the meaning of the word I. That mind is an instrument for the activity of the divine consciousness. So that's great, because it has everything to do with an awakening story, that is taking part in your life. So is it impractical? Is it practical? Is it useful? Is it directly applicable to your daily life? And all these questions that can come up as a consideration even in an awakening process, as if you have a choice in that it will not occur or will occur, as if that depends on you in that sense. So that's interesting as a way of looking at it. Like, it's unbelievable that you think that as a human being, you think that it's a threat. Like, there's a fear for healing. There's a fear for expanding your mind, because you might lose the things that you say you love, but do you really love them? That's another case. But so here we are in our awakening process. things seem to be taken away from you. Is that true? Things seem to be totally different than you expected. What is so wrong about that? Like in a certain sense, when I speak for myself, of course, I lived in a moment of awakening, like when the first initial experiences came, so to speak, that were really putting everything upside down. It was like, I can't believe, like, I have a family, I have a wife, I have a job, I have a house, I have a car, I have animals, I have parents that are healthy, and my kids are healthy. Everything is running just smoothly. Why is it that I'm afraid? Why is it continuously that I'm in total fear? It does not give me, like, and why don't I feel completely happy? So that is something you actually walk around with as a human being continuously. You appear to have all the aspects of the pictures that you know so well that appear to be the things that will give you enjoyment, that will give you fulfillment, like buy this house, buy that boat, buy this car, have 2.4 kids, have this, have that, and then you will be happy. Take this education, then you will be happy. Like, if you don't go to school and don't have a right education, you will not be happy. Of course not. No. So it's very important to do these things. So I'm not denying that you should do these things, but it is not that your happiness is depending on it. Because as you see, like, if you as a human being, coming from a human standpoint, if you allow yourself to admit that your deeper feelings when you're by yourself, your deeper feelings when something goes wrong, like when suddenly you don't have a wife anymore, and your boat has been sold because you couldn't pay your rent or your mortgage, or this and this and this happened, and suddenly you're in the middle of nowhere, sitting by yourself and thinking, like, what on earth happened? I really thought that my happiness was organized for me in that way, and that this was completely fulfilling. And now it is taken away, and my luck seemed to be taken away. And how about this? Thinking about the future, like you have your life running, so to speak, but you keep thinking about the future. How is that supposed to happen? Where am I supposed to live? What are we going to do with one another? How will it be in 10 years? And all this kind of rattling of the mind. Like, these things all open up a lot of fear and contraction and protection, and like, okay, whatever I do, I have to secure here my life, otherwise I might lose it. I'm going to fight for it to lose it, not to lose it. I'm going to defend it. So this is all just natural ingredients that you rather not think about as a human being. So your human state of consciousness is never at ease. It is never quiet. It is never going to be relaxed. It cannot relax. It has to keep, this, you can call it facade or dream. It has to keep this dream going. And that takes an immense lot of effort. And you get tired of it. And you get sick of it. And you feel the pain of it. And you see the hopelessness of it. You see that it is a circle circling around, repeating itself. So all these things bring you to a point where something else can occur. And that seems to be the most, the destructive moment in your life. Everything goes upside down, or maybe it goes gradual. I don't know. This is another point. So not for everyone it goes in the same way. So for some, it is like you do your exercises, you read your books, and more starts to dawn. You know, more and more light is coming to you. You're able to receive it more and more and more. Every day a bit more, something like that. And for some it is like, whambo. There's a sudden shift that is so immense that like there's a polar shift, a mental polar shift going on. Suddenly there's a shift, everything aligned, down, and there you have it. It's like, that's different. And then for some it is like at a point where they oversee their lives and getting it to the end of it, almost like in their deathbed, you can come to an idea like, oh my God, they start to see the meaninglessness of it. Look, I give up everything now. And what was it good for? I don't know. But there's something else actually going on. This cannot be it. There must be something else. So there are people that get it that way too. So my master got it that way. He was in his deathbed. He had 1 or 2 days more to live. His liver was completely, he had cirrhosis of the liver after 30 years of alcoholism. And he was in a hospital, nearly dead, so to speak. And suddenly there was an appearance that came to him and gave him the choice. You start to teach the truth now, or you just pass. And he made a decision to start teaching the truth, teaching truth, even though he had no idea how that's supposed to be happening. He walked out of the hospital with all his tubes still hanging onto him, in barely clothed, so to speak, barefooted. He walked out, and that was the start of a period of, say, 30 years of daily teaching. So that's one example. So then there's, of course, you. You have your own awakening story, and I would love to hear about it. So how does this work for you? Really important, because something happens when you start to talk about it. I can feel it now myself too. It's like I cannot share this without coming into that experience again, because like everything is going on right now. We heard that yesterday too. It's like we heard this in quantum class. Everything is going on at the same time. So I bring in a memory, and it's actually happening right now. It is actually happening right now. There is no past in which it could have occurred. But it did occur. That's the amazing thing. So anyway, let's listen to one song, and I'm going to start to share something about my awakening story. So sit back and relax even more. Okay, let's continue. So the awakening story, so to speak, and so take your popcorn and no, it's. I'm just kidding. So it was. That's why I started this way. It was on a very rainy day. I lived in a former monastery, and it was like. I was there by myself. I lived with some other artists there and my family, and it was empty, spacious, great, dark there. And so there was a huge garden in front of it, a little bit of a forest, and it had a very specific energy and not very nice, actually. Some parts were really like weird. And so I walked around there in my, say, start as an artist, making work all the time, but going through moments in which I listened to music, and in this music there were continuous episodes of healing on stage, like there was some kind of spiritual healer on stage performing healing. And I listened to that like for maybe half a year on a daily basis, a couple of times, just because I loved it. I didn't even know why. And that was one of the things that happened. And the thing was that I actually became more and more aware of the fear that I was in, that I was actually experiencing. What happens to this? What happens to my kids? What happens to me in this building? And it was a bit scary. Like the energies were weird in my experience of myself at that point. It was different. So it led to an intensity for me to see that, hey, basically for every step I take, I'm afraid. For every thought that I have about the future and the past, I feel fear coming up. I have no idea how to continue. And that became pretty intense and like so right in my face that I had like, okay, I got to do something about this. I cannot walk around this. I feel completely uncertain all the time and I have no idea in which direction I'm going, how I can be happy. I have no idea how I can be happy. And so at a certain point on this rainy, windy night, and I went into that forest, and there was a certain place that I really did not really like, and it was a bit it was the scariest place I could find, really. So it was totally dark because there was no light there, there was no moon or anything like that. So I had like, okay, I'm going to surrender myself into this fear. I'm just going to lay down and surrender myself to fear and see what happens. And so this is what I did. I laid down. It was scary. Like okay, well, fear, come and get me, because I have no idea. So I laid there for a moment, and there was a lot of wind, a lot of rain, and suddenly that became quiet. It was suddenly completely quiet. I had like, wow, what is this? I can't believe this. And at the same time, the light started to shine at the place where I was. Like it became light, and I had like, what is this? And instead of becoming more fearful, I felt suddenly like an enormous peace flowing over me. Like such deep sense of peace that I felt at home in myself like I never had before. That was my experience at that point. And actually I could hear, say, that everything was ticking, like the whole universe, my part in it, was just one perfect synchronicity. Like literally I experienced like everything is happening in this moment at the same time. There's nothing to fear. There's complete communication. And that took some time. And then I went back in. It's like, wow, I cannot believe what just happened. And so that was an intense moment. Like it was a real epiphany or a real revelation to me what happened. But at that point, I had no idea what the effect would be for me. And so in the unfolding in the next couple of months, I discovered that I could suddenly physically freeze up, like really became so cold that I had to take a shower to relax and at the same time release. Like it was, I did this a couple of times a day. It was a total emotional release. I cried and cried and cried until I was warm again, and then I was ready with my hot shower, so to speak. So when these repetitions came, in those days I could not sleep. I just didn't get any sleep. I was laying on the bed full of energy and I had no idea how to fall asleep. It just didn't happen to me. So that took some weeks, months. And so another thing that happened at the same time was that I knew exactly what was going to happen for many of us, like the ones that are in my consciousness. Okay, this is going to happen, that is going to happen. I could feel some relative of mine passing. I knew exactly when that happened. And I was like clairvoyant. I could tell people where their keys were and all this, like absolutely everything happened in that sense. I was completely open to receive that. So that was, it wasn't clear for me what happened to me. So the relatives around me had something like, well, are you okay? Are you doing all right? And it was like this. It's like, I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. It is just that I discovered that there's no darkness. It is just all light. I can't believe it. So also to my friends, I started to speak like, well, there's no darkness. There's only God. You can't believe it. So that scared them away big time. And so other people invited doctors to come to me, a psychiatrist to come to me, to have a little chat with me if everything was all right. And so one of the conversations I remember with the doctor was this. We walked through this garden in daylight and suddenly there was this beautiful flower. And I started to cry of the beauty of the flower. And I said that to him. I said, look what happens. I watch this flower and suddenly I can see my relationship with it like I never could before. I can't believe that. That is so beautiful. That is because something happened to me in which I'm suddenly coming more alive than ever. And the doctor had like, wow, that's so great. I wish I could do the same. How do we do that? But I never saw him again. And the same with the psychiatrist. It's like, no, there's nothing wrong with my psyche. I changed. My mind has been changed. And it feels like I can experience connection like I never could. And my mind is open. And I certainly won't hurt anybody, and absolutely not myself either. So there's no real acute danger or anything like that going on at all. So this was another part. And so these were all steps for me to realize something fundamental has changed here that I cannot relate to with any human so far. There was literally nobody in my surroundings that recognized any of it. Some of them were like, I trust what is happening because I feel your love. You're so quiet and suddenly you've changed and you've become so peaceful. I can't believe it. And so then I discovered like, okay, now I have to live further. So I'll speed up the story a little bit. Otherwise you sit here another 2 hours. But this was really the initial part. For me it was more like I have to see how this works practically. How can I do this? Do I still earn money for my family, or what is being asked of me in this? I don't know how to do this now. Everything is different. I don't even know what it means to be a dad of my kids or a partner to my spouse. I have no idea how to behave, really. And so that slowly but certainly I sank into like a depression. because I had no idea how to relate, and I really did not know exactly how this continues, like what's supposed to happen now. I had no guidance in that sense that I was listening to, and so that took some time, and suddenly there was this one man I met, and he wrote he read something to me, and it was about a connection, like literally like a moment of entanglement with somebody on the other side of the world that I'm actually in a relationship with, and he is wishing me the best, and I felt that something opened up. I felt that was the case, that was something that I recognized as my truth, and so that changed my state of mind. So then we're talking about, say, skip a couple of years, in which I saw more and more, okay, I can just be myself. I can take time to be with myself. I don't have to let myself be, say, exposed to too many. And in that quietness, something will show up again and will come to me. I had visions about groups of people where I'm a total part of, but I didn't know where they were yet. So then one moment, this is like 3 years later, one moment this occurred, which is really like a milestone to me too, is in the awakening. It was like this. So I lived in a house at that time, somewhere in the, a farmer's house, with my family still. We're still together. So with my family, and this house was falling apart. My kids were ill. They were all coughing and they were not getting over it. So it was mice running through the room, kids ill, roof falling apart, you name it. It was total misery. So something needed to change. That was obvious. And so I went for my spouse at the time to the library to pick up a book that she ordered. And I took it from the library and waited in the car and started opening up the book. It was A Course in Miracles, and it was just translated into Dutch. So I opened the book in the index and saw all the titles of the chapters, and they were like opening up in me like paintings. I saw literally visual representations of these chapters. It was absolutely beautiful. But I closed the book quickly and like, okay, that's for her. That's not for me. So then, within 2 weeks after that, there was a possibility to go into another house, and I took a look at it at night. I went there to take a look at that house, and I passed. It was a very small town, maybe 400 people lived there, but there was a big center next to it, and I passed that center, and I drove past that center. And I saw like, wow, look at this light here. That's incredible. Like, it felt so good. I had no idea. It was really like, well, I got to take a look here. What is going on? So I moved to this little village and went to this big building. So this big building was open in the morning, and after 3 times I finally managed to go inside, and I felt like I was coming home. Here it was a Course in Miracles International Reunion Center in this little town. Just after picking up the book out of the library, there was too much going on, too much of a coincidence. Beautiful. So I started to go there every day and meet with someone, with my teacher. But actually, just a couple of days before I met my teacher, he literally came into my dream in the middle of the night, in a bright dream, and he started performing healing with me. I could feel like, just like an idea of sitting at the dentist and something is changing. But here it was like a total change. And so I recognized him when I saw his videos for the first time. It's like, oh my God, that is actually Master Teacher. I can't believe it. I know this guy. So I went to Master Teacher, say every year for a couple of months, and then I decided to live with him in the community that was surrounding him, and so was with him for a couple of years directly on a daily basis, in which we basically say exercised resurrection, ascension, doing the lessons of A Course in Miracles, using it to come to a new experience of yourself. And you don't even realize that that was successful. When I was in it, I had not the idea that it was successful. Now, seeing that it was very successful in terms of leaving your old ideas about yourself behind, awakening to the truth of who you are, it was totally successful. I left. So that's the amazing thing. After he passed on, and suddenly the place, the community that was there dissolved into the nations where they came from. The buildings were literally turned into parking lots, which is pretty amazing to me. Anyway, so talking about reflections of light and a hologram. And so the first time I went to Master Teacher, this other thing happened, which is also like a milestone that I didn't realize had so much impact on me when it started. And that was this. The first day I went to Master Teacher in 2001, I think it was, I went to the Miracles Healing Center. I met some older guy, so to speak, and he came up to me and he said, like, I want healing from you. Can we do this now? I said, yeah. You ask me? Yes, sure, I don't know. Absolutely, let's do that. So we spent some time together in prayer and silence, and something happened. And he apparently was an student of Joel, and he introduced me at the same time into the infinite way. So and he sent me emails, he sent me all the basics to set up a website that I really started in 2007. So anyway, that was the origin of the infinite way part of me, so to speak, because it is based on love for my brother. I had a great connection with the ex-student of Joel. I worked in his garden. He was old and he couldn't do it anymore. I was there to take care of his garden. At the same time, every coffee or tea break that we had, we were listening to Joel or just disappearing into light together. So that's just a very short story. So there's another, because I will use this just to introduce why I use the books that I use. Then I go back from the United States in 2015. I go back to Holland. After a couple of times visiting Holland, I discovered, like, yeah, I gotta go back. I feel that I have to do that. So I did that. And on the day that I go back with my last suitcases with stuff, after selling everything and giving it away, I arrive at Dublin airport, and so in Ireland, and somebody told me just before I left from the States, he said, well, you should really download this book, Course of Love. You will love it. And so I did that when I was in Dublin. I had time to read, so I had to wait for a plane for another hour. I had I'm going to download this book and read in it. So I now opened up the book, and it was Jesus speaking to me directly in chapter 21, the embrace it's called. The first 2 or 3 paragraphs, it is totally overwhelming. At that time I felt so incredible that I met with Jesus in Dublin, and that I could cry my heart out on his shoulder, being completely loved, leaving everything behind what what I thought had happened, and like in the United States, being in this no man's land, going back to Holland. So that release took about an hour. I was barely able to catch the plane, but in the end I did. But when I arrived in Holland, there was like nothing left of me. I had no idea how to start in Holland, of why I would go there, of what to do there, and the people that were in fact there for me to pick me up from the airport. I had like, wow, I don't know what happened, but this is humongous. Like, I feel completely newborn. I've no idea. Literally, I've no idea. So this was the start of the episode here in Holland, where I still live, and continue to give away, and to whatever flows through me will flow to you, because I will not keep it for myself. So that makes me incredibly happy to do that, and to give this away, what I've received, because it actually was successful, not by my own evaluation, but by just my experience of myself. Like, unbelievable how well this works. It has nothing to do with your ideas about it and your evaluation of yourself neither. Like, this works better than you think, and you will discover that one day. Now you think, like, I'm in the middle of a process, I don't know how to do this, but then it's like, oh my God, it is successful. Look, there's nothing left of any kind of idea about myself. And the freedom to share and laugh about, not shamefully or anything, but laugh about human ideas. It can be so much fun. Like, I live with my partner, and we say to each other, well, we have no future together. It's like, we have no future together. And as a human being, you would say that to one another with, well, you mean it ends now? Like, no, it has just no future. It's great. It's just present right here and now, and that's it. It has no future. How delightful. So these things, when you learn to laugh about it, because you see what it actually entails, my God, that's such a gift. So I love to share more of that with you, and laugh about it with you. So thank you for your attention to listen to this, and I would love to hear your awakening story, whether that's in a song or in a painting or in a story or in a poem or in you name it. It really doesn't matter. That would be great. Thank you so much for listening to that. So I'm going to read again what Joel gives us today, in the parenthesis, the Master Alchemist, just as an say, an epilogue. As the Master's consciousness becomes our consciousness, and as we enter that circle of eternity, we too can know, within my own being, I have the kingdom of God. It is not outside or in the heavens. The kingdom of God is within me. In this moment of quietness, I hear God say, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. I have meat the world knows not of. I am the meat, and the wine, and the bread. I am the resurrection. I am life eternal. All of this is within me. All of this is embodied in my consciousness. All of this constitutes the withinness of my own being. I myself embody the kingdom of God and all that is therein. I do not have to curry the favor of princes, because I embody my bread, meat, wine, and water unto eternity. Within me there is a presence that says, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. I will be with thee to the end of the world. I am thy bread, and thy meat and thy water. This kingdom is already established within me, and I need not look outside my own being for anything. So that was from our friend Joel. Lovely. I read this the other day in a meditation, but I love this. So that fits really well. That's so great. So somebody today sent me some music, and I'd love to share that with you, just as it's a really like a meditative healing sound with voice. I don't know exactly what he is singing, but I love the energy of it. So let me see if I can find that and share that.
There's no hurry. No hurting. When it's all said and done, it's time to be